Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, September the 11th, 2023. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel, the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel, and the Wilmsfront Rumble channel. I have got Power Chat working tonight, where you can send through a donation to support the show and have a message read out. Hello to everyone in the chat. Being at 9/11, happy Pinochet Day for those of you celebrating it. It is the 50th anniversary of the 1973 coup in Chile, where General Augusto Pinochet saved the nation from an economic and humanitarian disaster with his coup d'etat, overthrowing the economically Marxist destructive president Salvador Allende. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. Now, you'll remember last year, Dan Andrews, after his COVID lockdowns of 2020, 2021, told us that Melbourne was back, and it certainly is. Criminals are once again rampaging throughout our city in a horror crime surge in the past week. The world's second most livable city, of course, and it began last Monday with a 14-year-old schoolboy from Glen College in Glen Huntly being robbed and kidnapped and then thrown from a moving car. He is in hospital with life-altering injuries. He was robbed and kidnapped by two youths who around about the same age as him. So there was a 14-year-old was arrested from Frankston South who was already on bail. Imagine my shock. And there was also a 15-year-old who has been arrested as well. So that's how the week started. Then on Friday night, we had yet another deadly car attack in the Melbourne CBD. The 26-year-old man, Zain Khan from Melton West, drove his mother's car into the CBD through Bourke and Swanson and Bourke and Russell Street, killed a 76-year-old man from Brunswick who was in the car, and injured three pedestrians he ran over at a tram stop, and he sat on the car bonnet waiting to be arrested.
Good evening, Andrew McCormack in the 7 newsroom. There's breaking news on an incident in Bourke Street in Melbourne CBD. Crime reporter Cassie Zervos is there. Cassie, what do we know so far?
Well, Andrew, this is very much a developing situation as we go to air right now. As you can see behind me, a major crime scene has been set up at the intersection of Bourke and Russell Street as investigators try to piece together what exactly unfolded tonight. What we know so far is that an out-of-control car was speeding and hit several pedestrians. There is unconfirmed reports. One person has sadly died. As you can see from this phone vision, a man dressed in white was circled in by officers and arrested at the scene. He's currently in custody tonight, being questioned by officers. Several people have been rushed to hospital with critical injuries. And of course, Victoria Police say they will update the media as more information comes to light. Andrew?
Okay, that's the latest from Cassie Zervos in Bourke Street in Melbourne CBD. 7 News will keep you updated on air and online at 7news.com.au. The footy continues next.
So that was Friday night. breaking news. Then on Saturday morning, we heard from the Police Commissioner, Shane Patton, and Dan Andrews was with him as well. And Shane Patton said that Zain Khan was a clean skin, according to Victoria Police, had no priors, although Victoria Police, he had come to their attention over a mental health issue. And so he was known to police in another way. Now, 7 News has interviewed Zain Khan's mother and has detailed his history of mental illness, because terrorism was ruled out. It was deemed mental health. So it says here that Khan's mother spoke to 7 News outside her home but did not want to be identified. Remember, it was her car that Zain drove into the city at 60, 70 kilometers an hour into the CBD, which is very fast. So she said her son had been battling mental health issues since 2017, and he was taking medication for. It's very sad. He's sick. As a mum, it's not easy. It's hard. I heard, he's hurt people. I was shocked by that part. If some family who have kids that are sick, they will understand what mental illness is. He has been remanded in custody and will appear at Melbourne Magistrates Court on 15th of January next year. According to his mother, he'd stopped taking his medication 2 months before. He's been charged with 1 count of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. So Victoria Police were for once going in hard with the charges. Now, that was Friday night. Then on Saturday morning, there was a brazen and, you'd have to say, well-organised hit on a Melbourne gangland identity, Gavin Preston, at a cafe in Keilor East, which is in Melbourne's Middle West.
Good evening. Chilling footage has captured the moment notorious crime figure Gavin Preston was shot dead at a busy cafe. Police and detectives have been out in force today with fears the brazen hit could spark dangerous reprisal attacks. Adam Hegarty has the latest.
It may be targeted, but it's innocence in the crossfire. Cafe diners ducking for cover from a hooded gunman's gangland assassination. Pharmacist Amani Awad was there.
I was quite distressed, and we had to close early. One customer came, she said she heard the bang from Keilor Park.
Up to 10 rounds. And not all hit their target. The very public cafe wall peppered with stray bullets. Several people had to run for their safety. This was brazen and a big deal.
Quite a big move that someone has taken the action of killing Gavin Preston in this particular matter, so it's a matter of watch this space.
Police on patrol clear fears of an underworld reprisal. Gavin Preston, the infamous criminal gunned down, had many enemies. AJ Magni, the man he was seated with, also shot and taken to hospital, is the son of a murdered crime boss. Here he's filmed running away. As for the identity of the 2 gunmen,
I suppose take your pick.
it was meticulously planned. You can see here where one of the getaway cars was torched. 2 men have then run up that footpath to another car they'd kept there for several days with its plates covered. An underworld escalation with a cafe and young workers caught in the middle. The owners unwilling to speak out, but posting online. We are so proud of our team and how they conducted themselves in such a traumatic situation. Melbourne's grown accustomed to.
Another terrifying act for the community.
And now you remember from 20 years ago, Melbourne's gangland war, where underworld figures were assassinated in the street. Probably the most shocking was of Jason Moran at his kid's Auskick. And you'll remember that Victoria Police, under pressure to solve the gangland killings, which ended with the arrest and conviction of Carl Williams, who was murdered in prison in 2009. They hired Nicola Gobbo as a police informant, Tony Mockbell and Carl Williams' lawyer. So she was known as Lawyer X. The biggest legal scandal in Victoria. And earlier this year, the Dan Andrews government, they decided to pass laws that would give police discretion to register lawyers as police informants, and even even judges as well, incredibly. And you remember that no Victoria police officer is going to be charged by Dan's Victorian Director of Public Prosecutions. So there could be, we don't know if the assassination of Gavin Preston is going to lead to another gangland war, but Victoria Police, they legally have that ace up their sleeves if they want to trash our legal system again. Now, recently it has been Sydney which has been a gangland warfare central, with two Middle Eastern crime families assassinating each other, which is over the Sydney cocaine trade, because Sydney-siders are some of the biggest cocaine users in the world. I'm not sure if there is a drug of choice in Melbourne. We know that the North Richmond drug injecting room does a big trade. In fact, there's this constant plan to have a second injecting facility in the Melbourne CBD. Now, that wasn't all. On Saturday night, there was a stabbing at the food court of Doncaster shopping centre.
Melbourne's knife crime has erupted inside a shopping centre food court, with two young men stabbed at Westfield Doncaster. The violence unfolded in front of stunned families. All three accused attackers already free on bail.
The victim stumbles to the ground and is set upon, both attackers with knives, one long blade clearly visible as he swings it into his defenceless target, a moment too brutal to show. It was one of two stabbings in the food court of Westfield Doncaster during a fight around 6:45 last night. Metres away, children sit with their mother waiting for dinner as the violence erupts. The two victims were aged 21, from Shepparton and Eltham. Both were taken to hospital. Police say there were three attackers, but they believe the two groups don't know each other. Detectives now working to establish what prompted the violence. The suspects didn't make it far. Police found them a short time later, just 2 streets away. They're aged 17, 18 and 19. None are from the local area.
The police stopped a group of 6 and they handcuffed 3 of them. They were just smoking their vapes and laughing. They weren't even stressed. The police was investigating all of my house. Yeah, they were in the backyard, in the front yard, and they were searching everywhere for something hidden.
All three have faced court and been bailed. Charges include intentionally and recklessly causing injury and possessing a prohibited weapon. Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
That's a common occurrence you'll hear in these news reports. So all three, despite, well, obviously most people stabbed to kill, all three of them were bailed afterwards. There was one already on bail. And also Dan Andrews, he wants to you'll remember that in the aftermath of the January 2017 Gargasoulis car attack on Bourke Street, where 6 people were murdered, including a baby in a pram, 27 were injured. Gargasoulis, you remember, is on bail. Bail laws were tightened, but now Dan Andrews, he wants to, well, loosen Victoria's bail laws. Well, for low-level crimes, they'll find it easier to get bail. This is before the Parliament, and the trigger is, of course, the death in custody of an Aboriginal woman, Veronica Nelson, who died in custody after breaching bail, after she was charged with shoplifting. So according to this legal reform, it will scrap the reverse onus provision, which the onus is on the accused about why they should have bail, and the double uplift provision for people accused of committing low-level offences while already on bail under the unacceptable risk test. The test will remain for other offences. So if somebody commits an offence already on bail, then they won't automatically be put on remand for breach of bail. So the 2018 changes had the reverse onus test only if they could provide compelling reasons and exceptional circumstances to be granted bail. It's always when there's the death of an Aboriginal person that Dan Andrews leaps into action to reform. We're getting public drunkenness legalized at the end of this year because an Aboriginal woman died in custody while drunk. So this, of course, was Saturday night. And then last night, there was another abduction in Preston in Melbourne's north. This is the 7 News report.
The chase came to a dramatic end here in Preston in Melbourne's northeast. The stolen silver Hyundai crashing into this white car around 10 last night. Police say a short time earlier, a hire company reported a vehicle stolen in nearby Northcote. Officers tailed the car from a distance and witnessed a man being thrown from the vehicle at a busy intersection. The 18-year-old victim appeared to have been stabbed. He was taken to hospital in a serious condition with facial injuries. Police now say he was known to the other parties in the car. The air wing and the dog squad were called in, with police successfully laying stop sticks to deflate the car's tyres. The 4 offenders, all aged 20 and under, all ran from the car. One of them hid under a vehicle parked in a driveway.
I came out to have a look, and at the same time I noticed there was a long bladed knife in the garden. He said, "Is that yours?" I said, "No, I'd never seen it before."
The police kept everyone pretty calm, and they were like, "We're police, we've got this situation under control." Obviously the sniffer dogs make you feel like, well, they haven't found the person yet, so is it?
All 4 occupants were arrested, the eldest charged with motor car theft. 2 others are currently being questioned by police.
Now 2 were already on bail out of that 4, according to reports tonight, and 1 has been granted bail after this. So we had the Deputy Premier, Jacinta Allen, today. She fronted the media. She was mainly asked about yet another Bourke Street car attack, because you remember that at the end of 2017, there was a car attack at Flinders Street where an 83-year-old man was murdered, and this was deemed Islamic terrorism. Saeed Nouri was the perpetrator, the driver of that car. So there were 18 injured. And you remember in November 2018, 3 weeks before the state election, there was a car bomb attack at Swanston Street. The perpetrator, Hassan Khalif Shire Ali, remember, he was shot dead by police, but he stabbed a prominent businessman, Sisto Malspezi, who was one of the co-owners of Pellegrini's Espresso Bar, a iconic Melbourne cafe. And 3 weeks later, Dan Andrews, he was re-elected in the landslide of 2018. And remember the lesson that the Victorian Liberal Party took out of that loss, that being tough on African youth gang crime, because it was that they were the main, that ethnic group was the main perpetrators of youth gang crime during that time. They were largely African gangs. The Liberal Party, their review said that, we lost the election because we appeared too tough on that issue. And so now the Victorian Liberal Party is largely Me Too when it comes to a lot of this criminal justice reform. And with the weather thankfully warming up in Melbourne, that means the gangs will be out and about. You might remember last summer at St Kilda Beach, there was a youth gang member stabbed to death. There have been a couple of other teenagers who've been stabbed to death. These rival youth gangs, and you'll always remember that their mothers always say to the media, "Oh, he was a good boy who didn't do nothing." So you can guarantee with the warm weather that places like St Kilda Beach and other beaches, there'll be violence there. But according to Deputy Premier Jacinta Allen, Melbourne is a safe city by global standards. In fact, Kos Samaras of the Redbridge Group, a former Deputy Labor campaign director, tweeted, "This violence occurs in every city. It has done so for decades and generations." That said, compared to other major global cities, we are doing just fine. Well, we're doing better than, say, Chicago or New York or San Francisco. So we're not as bad there yet. I mean, I was in the CBD the next day on the Saturday, and I did feel safe because something like that's not going to happen the next day. Though I did, of course, look both ways when I was crossing the road, as you should do normally. And the city was heaving, so it certainly didn't deter people. It was footy finals season, so there was that game that was on that day, St Kilda GWS. There were plenty of fans in the CBD, and it being the Melbourne CBD, I saw another cross-dresser, clearly a dude dressed like a lady, but this time they were actually an employee at the Maya CBD. So there you go. So, but obviously, this is not good news for, well, Melbourne has so many issues, but the last thing we need is another crime wave surge return. Now, at the federal level, Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister, Airbus elbow, he stopped by Manila in the Philippines to meet the new Marcos president. And then he was at the G20 in India, Bharat. India's going to change their name to Bharat. It always was Bharat. So we should never dead name the country as India when it changes its name. And Anthony Albanese's deputy, Richard Marles, is refusing to or trying to avoid handing over details of his $3.6 million in taxpayer-funded VIP RAAF flights. He's claimed national security. He's got until Wednesday, September 13, to hand over the documents revealing the dates and costs of every flight that he took. He claims that he flew commercial from Canberra to Avalon, except there are no flights from Canberra to Avalon directly. So they could only be if he flew from Canberra to Avalon, because Avalon's near Geelong. Richard Marles is the member for Corio, which is in Geelong. The only way that he could have got a direct flight from Canberra to Avalon is through a VIP RAAF flight. And so why can't Richard Marles just do what other politicians do, fly commercially from Canberra to Melbourne and then catch a Comcar there? We'll remember how Bronwyn Bishop, the former Liberal Speaker, she was forced to resign when she took a chopper from Melbourne to Geelong to attend a Liberal Party fundraiser when she could have simply taken a car. So there does seem to be a double standard. But of course, as Bronwyn Bishop says herself, there's one rule for socialists, one for everybody else. So we will see if Richard Marles is successful in claiming national security to cover up his abuse of taxpayer-funded flights. In fact, Samantha Maiden, who's the journalist who's been pursuing this, I mean, it makes a change from her championing Brittany Higgins, Brit Thief Fibbins, some call her. Because Samantha Maiden, she couldn't get an answer out of Richard Miles, his office, she decided to approach him when he went on his morning jog in Canberra. But that was considered a security breach because his daily routine is known. And so now he's getting additional Australian Federal Police protection because he was approached by a journalist, more taxpayer expense, of course. All right, now it's time for an update in the Voice campaign. Now, there have been more polls published this past week pointing to a big victory for the no vote in the Aboriginal voice referendum. So we had the Redbridge poll, which has overall 39% for yes and 61% for no. So that is a landslide there. This of course follows the news poll last week, which had no in the majority for the first time at 53%. We have the Resolve poll, which was published in The Age today, where all states are voting no, apart from Tasmania, where yes is ahead 56 to 44. So 5 states, including Victoria, yes is trailing 49-51, and that would be epic if Victoria was to vote no. The opposition leader, John Pesciuto, he decided that he would vote no after months of dithering. The New South Wales Liberal leader, Mark Speakman, is voting yes, as is the Tasmanian Premier, Jeremy Rockcliffe. MPs at the federal level who are going to be voting yes is, of course, Julian Leeser, the former Shadow Attorney General and Indigenous Affairs spokesman, Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg. Here was Andrew Bragg with the Liberals for yes, this sad group of Liberal rums, talking to commuters at Edcliffe Station about voting yes at the referendum. Yes, they look so energized there to campaign for yes. And so we also have this is coming up at the Diamond Bay Bowling Club in Vaucluse, a very wealthy area of Sydney within the electorate of Wentworth. So there is apparently the Conservative case for the voice. So Allegra Spender, the Teal Independent for Wentworth, Julian Leeser, his seat of Berowra is up near Hornsby in northern Sydney. Jeffrey Winters, Gamilero man, former Liberal candidate for Sydney, and Tony Nutt, former Chief of Staff to John Howard. He was also the federal Liberal director in 2016 when Malcolm Turnbull was Prime Minister, and he cried over Labor's Mediscare campaign, which nearly cost them a majority. He said they scared my elderly mother that Medicare was going to go. So he's pathetic. And now there was also a story this week that Liberal yes supporters threatened with losing a pre-selection. So this is according to the Liberals for Yes organisation director, former ACT Chief Minister Kate Carnell, who has also been part of I think it's the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and also has worked for Beyond Blue. So many in the party are angry that some Liberal MPs are being seen as treasonous and acting against the national interest. So we shall see. I saw one former Liberal staffer say they shouldn't just be lose their pre-selection; they should be expelled. We know that former Prime Minister Liberal Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and his deputy Liberal leader Julie Bishop are campaigning for yes. That seems to be despite Peter Dutton, because remember, Malcolm Turnbull, He said that the voice would be like a third chamber, which basically, if it gets in the Constitution, will. And also there is former New South Wales Premier Mike Baird campaigning for yes, and also former Western Australian Premier Colin Barnett and former Tasmanian Premier Peter Gutwein. Other polls we had this week that pointed to a victory for no, were the Guardian Essential poll, a left-wing poll by Essential Media published in a left-wing paper, The Guardian, and there was also Freshwater poll published in News Corp. So there's been 5 polls this past week, all for a no, overwhelming no vote. And to me, it just seems that the constant propaganding and the ever never-ending victim narrative from the Aboriginal industry superstructure has just made the people of a lot of people in Australia snap. We've done so much for the Aboriginals over many years, and yet there is still violence in Aboriginal communities. There is so many that still hate us simply for being white. And when you accuse no voters of being racist, I mean, that just firms up the no vote. I've seen this graphic around: a no vote will break Australia's fair go spirit like Brexit broke Britain's economy. And then there was also Jed Carney, a federal Labor MP. She declared that a no victory in the Voice referendum will be a big win for hateful, racist Australians. And Noel Pearson, you remember him, about 15 years ago, he allegedly said to the State Labor Environment Minister, Kate Jones, "You white fucking cunt." Imagine if the roles were reversed and it was a white person saying that to an Aboriginal person. And Noel Pearson said that Peter Dutton's support for the Liberals supporting the No campaign was a Judas betrayal. He called Mick Gooda another of these, well, you could basically call them godlike Aboriginal spokespeople. I don't know how these people like Noel Pearson, Mick Gooda, Marsha Langton, I don't know how they all appear to be they're the holy voices of what Aboriginal people want. And of course, Noel Pearson has also attacked Jacinta Price previously as well. And now Noel Pearson, he was on the ABC Insiders program yesterday, and host David Spears asked him what it would mean if, well, when Australia votes no, I should say.
Noel Pearson, what will it say about the country if Australia does vote no?
Listen, I'm not going to cast kind of prospective judgment on the people of Australia on this, when I still believe we have every opportunity over the next 5 weeks to listen to the concerns of those Australians who have questions and reservations.
But do you think Australia can Australia still celebrate in the way it does Indigenous history and culture if it's voted no to this?
No, well, as I say, David, I'm not going to make judgment about... I'll make that judgment the day after the referendum. At this stage, I believe we still have the capacity to do the right thing. I'll tell you one thing, though, David. I just don't believe when the hand of friendship and reconciliation is extended from Indigenous people that at the end of the day, their love will be unrequited. I just can't believe that. I cannot believe we still live in an Australia where that hand would be just slapped aside. This Unrequited love is my worst nightmare. I just don't believe Australians are capable of that at this time in our history.
So according to Noel Pearson now, this is him putting on his reconciliation performance, that all the Aboriginal Australians have unrequited love for non-Indigenous Australians. And he said, it'd be hard to contemplate that unrequited love be slapped away. I mean, we have seen for ourselves the violence in Alice Springs. There have been white people who've been attacked by Aboriginal people because they are white. So there is certainly there is some hate from Aboriginal people towards non-Aboriginal people. I have noticed people in the chat will be able to give me feedback. All the photos that I've seen of city-based Yes volunteers door knocking, handing out pamphlets, they've all been white boomers. In fact, just the other day, I saw a old white boomer couple. They were wearing Yes badges and both had N95 COVID masks on, even though I showed last week that even Dr. Fauci was told by CNN that the Cochrane review of masks said that there was no evidence that they worked. Now, of course, we had the First Lady get COVID for a second time, Jill Biden. She is now recovered, so she's been fine. She is about decade younger than Joe Biden. Now, because he was deemed a close contact, we had this mask theater return to the White House, and this is how it panned out.
President Biden tested negative last night for COVID-19 and tested negative again today. He's not experiencing any symptoms. As far as the steps he is taking, since the president was with the First Lady yesterday, he will be masking while indoors and around people in alignment with CDC guidance. And as has been the practice in the past, the president will remove his mask when sufficiently distanced from others indoors and while outside as well. The president took off his mask, as I said he would, to deliver incredibly powerful remarks about this captain, Captain Taylor, and what he did in service to our nation. And he wanted to honor the captain. And for a brief time afterwards, he also didn't have his mask on, as you just laid out. And he left as planned, as it was planned. He left when there was a pause in the program in order to minimize his close contact with attendees who are about to participate in a reception. And as you all reported that, noticed that he left when there was a pause in the program, because again, he wanted to minimize certainly his impact on folks who were there.
Hello, everybody. I'm explaining to the press. I've been tested again today. I'm clear across the board. But they keep telling me because this has to be 10 days or something, I got to keep wearing it, but don't tell them I didn't have it on when I walked in.
And you see the press laugh there. They all know that masks don't work and it's all for theatre. Yet the US CDC still, despite their own studies showing masks don't work, still advocate for masking, including sadistically on children. There have been even school districts in Alabama who have put mask mandates in only for 2 weeks. There, of course, one in Maryland as well. Now, of course, if it's not masks being forced on students, it's the LGBT pride agenda being forced down school children's throats, to the point now where in a elementary school in Oklahoma, this is beyond belief. They've hired a drag queen who was previously arrested for child pornography. So Shane Mernon, who performs under the name Chantel Mandalay while doing drag, was hired at the John Glenn Elementary School in Oklahoma City over the summer. In 2002, while working as a 5th grade teacher, Mernon was arrested on charges of child pornography. The case was later dismissed because the state could not prove that the people in the images were minors, which gives you the impression that it was that this person who's supposed to be a teacher is attracted to young people. Mernon is also a staple of drag queen story hours, where he dresses up in full drag to interact with the children. The superintendent of the state of Oklahoma, Ryan Walters, has called for Mernon to be terminated immediately. It's outrageous to have a drag queen running a school. You know, here in Oklahoma, that doesn't line up with Oklahoma values. I hear from parents every day that are concerned with this woke left-wing indoctrination in schools, this gender theory that continues to be thrust upon our kids. It's completely inappropriate. This individual is not fit to lead a school district. It has to stop. Well, aren't you the superintendent, Ryan Walters? So he says that he's outraged. Anything that might expose kids to inappropriate sexual content is a cause for serious concern to parents and absolutely contrary to Oklahoma values. I will not allow rogue educators to endanger our kids. It's looking into all accusations, will try necessary action to protect children. So that's in Oklahoma. Now over in Canada, remember Keilor Lemieux, real name Kerry, the shop teacher who decided to start wearing huge Z-cup prosthetic breasts to teach shop at Oakville Travaga High School. The school board finally took action when Keilor was back to being Kerry, just a normal middle-aged bloke. And so now he has got a new job, a transfer to Hamilton Wentworth District School Board. So this is he is going to be teaching at Nora Francis Henderson Secondary School. Sent a letter to parents warning of the possible media interest on site and protests ahead of the school's reopening on September 6th. And now Rebel News reporter David the Menzoid Menzies, who's easily Rebel's most valuable player, has been with Ezra Levant since the beginning, tried to confront Kerry about where did your breasts go and female costume go.
Where are your breasts? I thought your breasts were real. Where are your breasts? David Menzies for Rebel News here in...
Hang on, I'll try that again. Whenever I try to enlarge something on the screen, it just goes black when I try to do that. I'll play it again.
In Burlington, and folks, I'm at the Mapleview Mall, and this car, guess who it belongs to? Perhaps the most notorious big-breasted shop teacher in the world. Yeah, we're talking Kerry Look Lemieux, aka Keilor Lemieux, aka Busty Lemieux. Now, we've been staking out this teacher because you know how it was last reported that those breasts of his, those Z cups, they're not prosthetics. Those are natural breasts that he started developing at age 39. Even if that is true, I still don't understand why you can't dress appropriately. But in any event, we don't know in what persona he went to the mall as. Was it as the male version of Lemieux or the female version, but we're going to wait here. And he's got to come out sometime. The mall closes in about 2.5 hours, and we'll be there to see if it's Mr., Miss, or other Lemieux. Stay tuned.
I thought your breasts were real. Where are your breasts? Why are you dressing inappropriately in front of children?
Can you believe it, folks? Like a cornered rat. He ran for the hills. He didn't even have the guts to come back to his car. He's abandoned it here. He called an Uber and he's skedaddled, well, who knows where. I guess he's got to come back for his car at some point. Maybe he's going to have it towed to his condo. But did you notice? No breasts. But
now, there was I remember at the time when Keilor Lemieux hit the headlines, there was a Reddit post that claimed that this was one huge troll. So it said, this dude is gaming the system. And Anon here yesterday was in this dude's class. The teacher was almost fired for toxic masculinity last year, as well as not embracing woke culture. He dropped red pills to his class, such as how silly gender-neutral bathrooms are. The school board hates him. Now he's upping the ante to exploit their very clown world the school and society itself has created. His long game is most likely to get fired and then sue for discrimination. There is no other explanation, nowhere to bait a troll the clown world than to become an overtop caricature of a woman. And that, it appears, what Keilor Lemieux was doing all along. And I have to say, well played, dude. Well played. And I remember Mark Dice, one of my favorite YouTubers, said it reminded me of the South Park episode where Mr. Garrison tries to be fired for being gay, so he can get a discrimination payout. So he spanks Mr. Slave in his class and puts Lemmy Winks up the hamster up Mr. Slave's ass, and Chef is sent to a tolerance course for calling him a sick queer, and the four boys are sent to the death camp of tolerance. So that is the education update. Now let's talk about how the sanctuary cities are going, because you remember last year, Ron DeSantis, he decided when he was not distracted running for president to send illegal immigrants up to Martha's Vineyard, since these people always claim that refugees welcome all that sort of banal liberal claptrap. They arrived at Martha's Vineyard and they were immediately deported. Well, New York Mayor Eric Adams, he's a former police officer. He campaigned on keeping New York City a sanctuary city. But this is what he was captured on camera saying what the illegal immigrant wave would do to New York City.
No support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian-speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City. And everyone is saying it's New York City's problem. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. We got a $12 billion deficit that we're going to have to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted. All of us. And so I say to you, as I turn it over to you, this is some of the most educated, Some of the most knowledgeable, probably more of my commissioners and deputy commissioners and chiefs live in this community. So as you ask me a question about migrants, tell me what role you played. How many of you organized to stop what they're doing to us? How many of you were part of the movement to say, we're seeing what this mayor is trying to do and they're destroying New York City? It's going to come to your neighborhoods. All of us are going to be impacted by this. I said it last year when we had 15,000. I'm telling you now with 110,000. The city we knew we're about to lose. And we're all in this together. All of us. Staten Island is saying, send them out to Manhattan. Manhattan is saying, send them out to Queens. Queens is saying, send them out to Brooklyn. No. It's not the game we can play. Open the floor up.
So what he's basically said, Eric Adams, is that mass immigration changes or destroys a city, and that basically New York as you know it is going to be, well, replaced. So the pennies drop for him. I mean, he's not a far left communist like the previous Mayor de Blasio was. I mean, he was an NYPD officer, so he has got some sense, and he did defend that Marine veteran who put that violent man in a headlock, and he sadly passed away, saying, look, he's been charged with, I think it's manslaughter, that Marine veteran. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. So he's a realist, Eric Adams, but he's still got a lot of Democrat brain warp. And even the members of the View, which hopefully will get cancelled soon. Whoopi Goldberg is off with COVID. She was wearing a mask from her Zoom basement. So this is what Anna Navarro, who's the fake never Trumper Republican on The View, this is what she said about the mass flood migration to New York.
But frankly, you know, I think we need to find, and we've dealt with this before. I lived in Miami. I was an immigrant in Miami in the 80s. You'll remember when we had the Mariel boat lift. Yes. 125,000 Cubans came in a matter of 6 months. It puts tremendous stress on a city, on a community, on the social services. They need to be resettled elsewhere.
They need to be out. We're this massive country.
Well, and it's only going to get worse with global warming and climate change because people can't live in certain parts of this world.
Oh yeah, so the new excuse why you can't have these flood of migrants coming into New York City is because of climate change. It's unsustainable. So remember, we were able to grind immigration to a halt, at least in Australia, with COVID. And remember that the US border was able to be controlled because of the COVID border policies. So it can be done. Now I saw Charlie Kirk, who he's getting I mean, Turning Point USA is a bellwether a conservative organization. Charlie Kirk said they want the migrants to stay in Texas so they can flip the state blue, so they can have a permanent blue majority. Charlie Kirk tweeted recently, and this was I know that Andrew Torba of Gab believed this was progress. You wouldn't imagine the Charlie Kirk who was under attack from the Groypers back in 2019. Charlie Kirk tweeted, "Whiteness is great. Be proud of who you are." And Andrew Torba, the founder of Gab, said, "To be clear, we've successfully shifted the Overton window and will continue to do so. Don't stop posting." And I believe that Torba, being a Twitter's greatest, or now X's greatest rival, Musk is reading his tweets, and that is why Musk is taking on the Anti-Defamation League for $22 billion in damages. Now, another Democrat who has been mugged by reality, or should I say carjacked by reality, is a Democrat official who vowed to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department. Shavanithi Shandamol, she holds the position of second vice chairwoman for the Democrat Farmer Labor Party of Minnesota. She was violently carjacked in the driveway of their home in Minneapolis. 4 very young men, all carrying guns, beat me violently down to the ground in front of our kids. The young men held our neighbors at gunpoint when they ran over and tried to help me, all in broad daylight. Look at my face in the picture. This is the face of a mother who's just had the shit beaten out of her, mother whose thought was only, let me run far and fight. And so now she is calling for justice. Now she wants law enforcement to come involved. So they have not arrested any suspects in the case. So she said in a social media post 3 years ago that her and fellow assets were going to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department because it had failed citizens. Well, it certainly failed her there in, well, preventing her to become a victim of crime there. But that's thanks to advocacy such as hers. So more Democrats are starting to wear the consequences of their positions. I mean, it's all well and good to advocate for open borders and defunding the police when you live in a gated community where outsiders, it's very difficult for them to come in and turn your community upside down there. Now, let's move on to the actual miscarriages of justice, and I'm talking about the Biden administration. So Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, was sentenced to 22 years in prison for seditious conspiracy over January 6th. Even though he wasn't there at the Capitol on January 6th because he'd been banned there because he'd been arrested and for burning a Black Lives Matter flag. Now, Enrique said that they told me to lie about President Trump in order to indict him. I told them to pound sand. So this is what he told the Gateway pundit, because so the truth is I could have been home. I could have been home a long time ago. I could be in my warm ass bed right now laughing at the world without a problem. All I had to do in order to do that was to lie about Trump. All I had to do was confirm a lie. And this is Enrique is not the only January 6 defendant to be offered such a deal. And so there have been 5 Proud Boys who have been sentenced to decades in prison. 4 of the 5, they were convicted of seditious conspiracy. The other most high-profile Proud Boy sentenced to 17 years in prison was Joe Biggs. He called into the Alex Jones show from prison. Now, because Enrique Tarrio, he'd previously done time for medical devices fraud, where he did coordinate with the feds to inform on others to get a discount in sentence, in an effort to sort of sow disquiet in the Proud Boys, say, oh, they're led by a Fed. Well, he rejected a literal get out of jail free card to lie about Trump. And he didn't. So he's clearly not working for the feds. Okay. Yes. And it is a total banana republic now. And this is, of course, not all. This is not all. We have also, we found out that the Fulton County grand jury wanted to indict Lindsey Graham, the South Carolina senator, as part of the RICO indictment. And so, basically, anyone who wanted investigations in Georgia was going to be indicted. So if you question the election results, indictment. I mean, this is absolutely outrageous. And it's funny how Lindsey Graham, remember, he said in 2016, if you want to make America great again, tell Donald Trump to go to hell. He was John McCain's best mate in the Senate, but neocon warmonger. Yet he's during Trump's presidency and post-Trump presidency, he along with Ted Cruz have been the two biggest Trump loyalists in the Senate. And remember, Ted Cruz didn't endorse Donald Trump at the Republican convention. He said, vote your conscience, vote the Constitution, and was booed there. But yeah, Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, even post Trump presidency, they're both backing him for 2024. And that just shows that politics, it can result in people who've hated each other in the past becoming the closest of allies. Now, last week we had Tucker Carlson's interview with Larry Sinclair, who 15 years ago, when Barack Obama was running for president, alleged that in 1999 in Chicago, in a limousine, Barack Obama smoked crack cocaine with him and performed fellatio on him. And then they did it again at Larry Sinclair's hotel room. He's had the same story for 15 years. He was previously interviewed by Dinesh D'Souza for one of his documentaries. He's never changed his story. He said he was motivated to contact the campaign because of he believed that Obama lied about his drug use on the campaign trail. Now, Larry Sinclair, the reason why he was ignored and also not taken out is because he's a convicted felon and known fraudster. And so, who are you going to believe? This aspiring politician or a felon fraudster who admits also that they are a recreational drug user? Though there was the death of one of Barack Obama's fellow church members at his Chicago church, led by Jeremiah Wright. Donald Young, shot dead in 2007. He was the choir master, an elementary school teacher, shot dead in his apartment. Larry Sinclair claims that Donald Young contacted him from the campaign to say that he and Obama had been intimate for many years. Now, of course, I don't care if Barack Obama is gay or if Michelle Obama is a man. I'm a libertarian, though it's the lying that obviously them presenting themselves as a married heterosexual couple. Remember that Barack Obama didn't support same-sex marriage in 2008 because the black community is still overwhelmingly opposed to same-sex marriage. The vote against same-sex marriage in California in 2008 was attributed to greater black turnout to vote for Obama, but vote no to same-sex marriage. So there is no way that African-American voters were going to vote for a gay black man to be president. And of course, if they have killed to protect their secret, first with Donald Young and then also with Joan Rivers, then yes, this is completely relevant. And Roger Stone, Donald Trump's confidant, has said that Michelle Obama will be the Democrat nominee in 2024. And now we will cover this more in detail on the theorists tomorrow night, and also cover the other 9/11 on the theorist tomorrow night with Andy Nolch, which is the September 11 attacks on the World Trade Center towers, and also we have managed to track down the footage of the alleged dancing Israelis on 9/11. That's been a popular rumor on social media for many years, but we've actually found the ABC News report, ABC News America report, of an eyewitness to the to the dancing Israelis, which we will play tomorrow night. Now, got a bit more time, so I will go over some more of the Voice. Now, remember that October 14th, which is Voice Referendum Day, it is the same day as the New Zealand general election, so there'll be a Trad Tasman Talk Super Saturday, starting at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Myself and Dewey DeBoer will anchor it, and we'll have both the Australian and New Zealand panel throughout the evening, and the results come in. It was interesting. We're in the middle of AFL footy finals. The AFL has decided that they will not feature any Voice to Parliament propaganda on grand final day. So they have read the room that AFL fans are sick of the social justice agenda being rammed down their throats at AFL matches. I mean, the AFL is going to be under new management at the end of the year. New CEO Andrew Dillon. And you'll remember that the AFL has disgracefully treated two of its most respected coaches this year, Alistair Clarkson, now at North Melbourne, and Chris Fagan, now at my Brisbane Lions. Remember, there were those four former Indigenous players and their families accused them of racism when they were at Hawthorn, led by former premiership player Sirioli, and it seemed to be triggered by Sirioli's wife being triggered by a bad joke Jeff Kennett made about her designer jeans, gave her change to, oh, you can fix up your ripped designer jeans, and she apparently got triggered by that, and that's apparently when Sirioli decided to quit the club, and the club was racist. And so remember at the time that the woke AFL media basically threw those two coaches under the bus. They denied any mistreatment, and well, thankfully for my Brisbane Lions, they are through to the prelim final. Chris Fagan has done wonders with the team this year, and I doubt that he mistreats our star Aboriginal player Charlie Cameron at all. I mean, it was just a outrageous accusation. But the NRL, they're going to allow $400,000 of Yes 23 advertising on grand final day. So the NRL is still going to pump through the propaganda. I am hopeful that the AFL they might actually end their social justice campaigning now. You remember they got involved in the same-sex marriage. They put the Yes logo outside AFL House, even though, as Louise Milliken did a whole Four Corners story on, there's no openly gay AFL players. They just choose to keep it on the down low. And also, there are 40,000 Aboriginal land claims in New South Wales. So Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council CEO Nathan Moran, he was on the program with GGB program with Ben Ben Fordham on breakfast, and basically said they tried to, if there's any unused Crown land or disused Crown land, they try to make a Aboriginal land claim for it. So it's just basically a land grab there, which basically gives the game away. And there's not much that's actually, once they've got the land, they do with the land. Where is everyone tonight, Tim? Well, I noticed that Lady of Charlotte and Dawn Browning aren't here. I hope the ladies are okay. But thank you for everyone for being here tonight, contributing to the live chat. Now, tomorrow night, if you're in Sydney, there is going to be mass immigration in the nation state. So it's going to feature Professor Gigi Foster, Dr. Frank Salter, and Dr. Jane O'Sullivan. So it's at the Sydney Mechanics School of Arts. And now you will remember last week I've started to promote in early December the Melbourne Underground Film Festival, hosted by Richard Wollstonecroft of the Report from Tiger Mountain. There was a fresh report from Tiger Mountain on Elon Musk versus the ADL. So MUF 23 will be early December 2023. I loved MUF last year. I'm eager to have some more MUF this year. And also the March for the Babies is happening on October 7 in the Melbourne CBD, Treasury Gardens. Hopefully be able to be on the steps of the Victorian Parliament House. We will do a meetup hopefully for MUF 23. I'll certainly be at opening night. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Now, if you don't want to send through a power chat, you can take out an Unshackled membership at the unshackled.net/membership. Bronze $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, and platinum $50 per month. Remember to keep checking the unshackled.net. It has got all of our Unshackled Productions archive and our articles as well. I'll see you for the Theorists tomorrow night on the Theorists dedicated YouTube channel. I will put the link into the live chat. So make sure you subscribe, and with all of our videos, make sure you give a thumbs up, comment down below, and click the bells to allow for notification. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sane, stay hydrated, because it is going to be warm weather, and stay out of harm's way because, well, if you're in Melbourne, who knows what's going to happen. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.